Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sid City Social Club on Friday, June 26th. I'm going to turn it over to Sid, and we'll get started with our first person.
On Tuesday, we started talking a bit about dads, because we did moms, and I know it's not Father's Day all over the world. If that question comes at you, be ready for it. And it can be, father figure. It doesn't have to be actual father.
Okay, we're going to start with Susie.
How are you?
Actually, I'm fine, thank you. Today's been a rather pleasant day, although even though it's supposed to be summer, we had quite a number of heavy downpours over here in Poland.
Well, tell us a bit about your city.
So I'm from Poznań. Poznań is a relatively, it's not a very big city, but it is not a small town either. It's in the western part of Poland, not very far away from Berlin. I think it's about 3 hours or so away from Berlin, something like that.
How did the city start? What was the history? Did it start because it was really good at something? Did it manufacture something?
Nowadays, it's mostly known as an academic town because there is a lot of universities. So we have a lot of students coming from many different parts of Poland to come to study here. We also have a vast majority of students from abroad. I often see a lot of students that come here as part of the Erasmus scholarship. This is the type of scholarship, like it's an exchange program. So students from certain European cities can come study elsewhere for a year or a couple months like that.
Okay.
So I teach English, and my department, the language department, has a Fulbright student coming every once in a while so that they can gain a teaching experience, teach other people English.
Terrific. Yeah. And do you live with your family?
Yeah, unfortunately, or maybe not, because I say unfortunately, because people at my age are supposed to basically move out at this point in their lives.
Yeah, there's no shame being with your family. Is that your mom and your dad, or your sisters or brothers?
With my mom and my sister. My dad, unfortunately, does no longer live with us because my parents have split apart. And since this week we're talking about fathers and father figures, I have to say that this was used to be a very touchy subject for me because my parents have split on very difficult terms. It was very heartbreaking to watch. And
of course. And did you guys get in the middle, or were you left out?
We were left out of it mostly because my mom wanted to keep us away from this whole situation. But still, if you live together, you kind of observe those things. You watch those things happen in front of your eyes. So it's unavoidable that you may run into those situations.
Absolutely. I never lived with my father and my mother at the same time. My biological father, I don't recall ever being in the same house with them both. Your father?
Yeah.
Was he replaced in some way, or were you much older?
No, for one, my parents split up when we were, both me and my sister were adults. My mom has decided not to find replacements, so to say, because I have been asking her about it, if she wanted to find someone, if she wanted to look for someone, and she told me no, that she's perfectly happy, that she has gone through this whole relationship thing, so she just now wants to, well, basically
enjoy her freedom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good for her. So how is teaching at the university?
When the whole pandemic caught up with us, we were at the very beginning of the second semester, the summer semester, with certain groups, because certain groups start English during the second semester. I only got to have like 2-3 classes with them live before the COVID pandemic hit. Not very much chance to meet them, to interact with them in person.
Yeah, and so what sort of students do you get? Do you get people, because you're a university, so these are mature students. So what sort of things do you teach them? Do they want to learn basic English, or are they learning comprehension?
Our department's policy is, because we already assume that some of our students, or at least most of our students, know some basic level English, we try to focus more on the technical stuff, on the stuff that is going to be useful for them in their future fields of study. So for example, I have students who study IT. So I'm teaching them some vocabulary, some expressions related to IT. That's the kind of thing that I work with.
Because English is a notoriously difficult language to learn. I mean, there are some people who say it's one of the third or fourth hardest languages in the world. I don't know how you measure that, but you've done incredibly well. You speak perfectly good English. Well, listen, it's been lovely talking to you, and thank you for getting up the courage. And you know what? You didn't sound at all awkward.
Thank you so much, and also thanks to Mel for having this wonderful opportunity to talk to you. There is a ton of people who would like to have the same opportunity.
Well, let's see how long this pandemic goes on for. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Okay, we're going to stay in the same part of the world, I believe. We're going to go to Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
You're also in Poland?
No, in the neighborhood in Germany.
Ah, okay.
But some kilometers away from Poland. So we are in a city called Peine, the city between Hanover and Brunswick.
Yeah, okay.
It's not really spectacular, but yeah, it's a nice town.
Do you like soccer?
Yes, but I'm not really a fan of VfL Wolfsburg. This is one of the team in the Premier League in Germany.
Yeah.
I read the messages about the games, but I'm not really often in the stadium. And
I do like to watch it on TV though, and because they have it kind of free. Well, it's not free; you have to buy. So tell me, I'm going to start you off about your father before I even know who you are.
About my father. Yeah.
Did your parents divorce before you grew up?
Yes, grown up with my parents in Wolfsburg till I leave the town. This was in 1998, together with my wife. So we just leave the town because of jobs and job application. Right. So my wife was working in Hanover. I was working in Brunswick. This was the reason why we have to go. Yeah, until this time I grew up in the same house like my grandpa and grandma and my parents. And this was a nice time. With three parties. Above me, my uncle lives a long time. That was a great family for a small house.
It's a wonderful thing to do. Live like a commune. You've got so many people to look after you, play with you as a child.
It was a nice.
That's just fantastic. What do you do for a living? What do you do when for work?
I'm working for IT. This is development. The name called DevOps engineer. This is a new magical word in the IT. Yeah, but this is what I do actually. Yeah, it's a magical word from the IT. It means that you have a developer, you have ops, for example, administration or something like that. And DevOps engineer do some things. Yeah, this is just an interface between the developer and the customer. If you have an application or a program you want to deploy, we build up the build pipelines and start the deployment automatically. And this are all the things we have to program and to support and all the things. So we support the developer teams and we support the customer.
And because cars are now so computerized, I guess you get busier and busier every year.
Yes, really. So I have so much overtime sometimes.
What do you love about the job? What do you love about working?
Yeah, communications. Yeah, many to talk. You have now the possibility to give all your opinions and your professional meanings into the team. You can get all the same stuff from the others from the team, and you work together and try to build together something, and it works afternoon. This is a good thing we have to work on, and I like it. So
it's really satisfying.
Yeah, to understand how it works. That is
absolutely
the reason why I do it.
So you're basically a scientist.
Yeah. I've studied for it. Yeah, I studied for computer science, but it's not the same name in Germany. So I got no bachelor or master in this time. I studied in Germany. This was in the 90s. We got a diploma.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What are you a fan of Star Trek? How did you find your way into the social club?
I loved Star Trek from the classic series. I was a child. I saw it in the German television. Okay, we have some stupid translations from the classic. I love TNG and I loved DS9 and I love your playing. Yeah.
Do you remember the guy who played Bashir? Did the German voiceover?
I know his voice. Yes.
It's not the same as my voice, is it? Because I think someone played it for me. Yeah. And is it kind of the same as my voice?
This is the similar sound. I guess. This is from kind of tone. You have
Okay, well, okay.
But it's not
When I heard it,
the same voice.
yeah, when someone played it for me and I heard it, I was like, do I sound like that? Because it was already up here. It was it was quite high up. I was like, okay, well, that's fine. That makes sense. Have you been to one of the conventions in Germany? The Star Trek conventions, because there are many. I can remember my first convention. I think my first convention was in Cologne. I remember arriving, and it was in this big place where all the politicians would meet if ever there was a summit. Very high security. When I walked in to check in, there was already Bill Shatner at the desk, and I was waiting for him to finish checking in as well. I could have sworn he said he was obviously upset with whoever was behind the desk. I'm pretty sure he said something like, but what if they come in by helicopter? The person behind the desk was saying, no, Mr. Shatner, it really is the most secure room in the hotel. He may have actually been telling a joke, and I just heard the punchline. Anyway, so that was my first memory of Bill. Right? And he's since been very sweet and kind. And actually, the older he gets, the nicer he becomes. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. Do you have a hobby?
Yeah, I produce audio dramas or radio plays.
Oh, my goodness.
I write.
Why have we been talking about this?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's fantastic. Genre type deal?
Science fiction or dramas or horror audio plays, and this is what we can do in the community. So we can organize all the speeches. We can organize composers. So we meet us together and find people to finish a project, for example.
That's fantastic. And do you hire a studio? Or do people do it at home with their iPhones and stuff like that?
No, what you see is my studio.
Oh, that is a studio? I can't tell. It could be any kind of room. But I do notice you've got some fancy headgear on. Do you do all the audio yourself?
They do it yourself. That means we are talking together first about the script and what I need for voices and what kind of words we need and all these things. So I get the director part for my scripts, and I can say, okay, I need a voice like this, and I need a speech like this. This is the casting at first we do, and after the casting is finished, the people get the scripts, that get their speech in their own studio or their home studio.
Wow.
So it's not central at one place.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. That's really wonderful. Is it on like YouTube and stuff like that? You must put a link somewhere so that anybody here who understands German, and I think there are probably several people who do, can turn up and listen to one of your brilliant plays or your performances or dramas, sci-fi drama. Well, you are definitely lighting the candle at both ends, my friend. You're squeezing every last drop of interest out of life with a fascinating job, an amazing hobby. That's terrific.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's been really lovely talking to you. I'm going to move to another person because otherwise I end up running out of time. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We're going to chat with Joan Marie.
There you are, Joan Marie.
Yes, and I'm wearing my Weekend on the Promenade shirt, which you and all the other actors on there signed.
That's fantastic. I remember that shirt.
See it all.
That is wonderful, Joan Marie.
I don't want to leave without saying that I did not know how much I needed this for my mental health until you and Mel started it. And I have attended regularly for the 10, 12 weeks it's been at. It has been wonderful.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And it's nice to just get together with a bunch of people every week and know that it's going to happen. Whatever crummy day you might be happening, on Tuesday and on Friday you can hook up with a bunch of people and let your hair down.
It is just great. I brought some visual aids.
Oh, good.
Do you remember this?
I do remember that. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. For those who came into Star Trek after the first run of Deep Space Nine, Gail Stever and I ran Sid's fan club for the duration of Deep Space Nine. And this is Multi-Species Medicine, which is the newsletter that I published every month, most of the time while the series was on. I still have extra copies, which is why I'm able to show you these.
They were so good. I used to look forward to reading those. And
well, thank you so much.
Yeah, I remember them very well, and they're really chatty. And I love the letters, the contributional letters that people wrote in, and the convention reports, and all kinds of good stuff in there. And usually there was a review of one of the episodes and a review of something else. It wasn't always the show. You would sometimes review another show. I thought it was a terrific publication.
Well, thank you so much. As I said, I still have some extra copies, so if anybody's interested, after we chat, I'll put my email in the chat room, and then if people want me to mail some extra copies to them, I certainly can do that.
That's a great idea, John Marie. And it's kind of a little snapshot of history, whatever week it was in 1990, whatever.
We did so many articles about you, and there's pictures, and
yeah, I know.
Everything for people who loved Sid. Well, I certainly remember seeing you first at the first Deep Space Nine program, and I thought, does this man have a fan club? And if not, how do I approach him without seeming as if I'm a stalker? But very soon after the program started, I somehow contacted Gail, and we exchanged letters. Then it started from there, because she was already in contact with you. So we were able to arrange this from that.
I was flattered by your attention, John Marie.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to learn everything about you, and certainly once I did the newsletter, I had articles and other people had articles. I certainly made that goal. I learned a lot about it. And
you did, and for such a long time, absolutely.
Yeah, it was just wonderful. I enjoyed doing it.
I'm glad to hear that. How are you, by the way?
I am doing okay, only going out for necessaries at the moment because I'm over 65 now, and that puts me in a high-risk group. I have asthma and allergies, and that somewhat puts me in a high-risk group. I am as healthy as I can be given my age and my pre-existing conditions.
You look as fit as a fiddle, I have to tell you.
Well, thank you very much.
Different, and it must be at least a dozen years have passed since we saw each other last.
I'm glad to see you again.
Thank you.
I wondered, can I also take the time to show off some things?
Yes, by all means. That's what you're here for.
Okay. Since you were raised in Great Britain, I'm sure that you will recognize these.
Absolutely recognize Thunderbirds.
I got a license in the early 2000s, and I wrote 6 novels based on the television program.
My goodness.
And I wrote them from around 2008 to 2012, and then my license ended, but something happened just recently in April. Anderson Entertainment, which is the estate of Jerry Anderson, contacted me, and they have been promoting the novels ever since. And in fact, I interviewed with them for their podcast, for their weekly podcast on Wednesday.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
And yes, it is so nice. I am getting a whole new audience for the books.
It's a wonderful show. And anybody who hasn't seen Thunderbirds, it's a terrific, it's such a clever show.
And I really enjoyed writing for it. And it is so nice that that many people are, that more people are reading the books now because of them. When I was listening to one of these Friday sessions, I was sitting here autographing 50 books. Because they asked me if I had any books left over from license ending, and I said, yes, I do. And they said, we would like to have them, and we'd like to have you autograph them. And it was pretty much out of the blue. What they told me is that one of the listeners to the podcast had emailed them and said, hey, by the way, I know that there is a writer named Joan Marie Verba who has written Thunderbirds novels, and you might want to contact her and see if she's still around and if she has anything to say about it. So they did.
What a compliment. I mean, because that must mean that you understood the canon in such a way that they felt you contributed to it. What else have you been up to? Because I know you write all sorts of different books.
Yes, I do. Right now, I finished on January 1st of this year, I finished a haunted house novel. I sent it out to a couple of places and they weren't too interested in it. I've decided to publish it myself because I belong to a writer's workshop, which meets every month, and I read them the book chapter by chapter. They've known me for a long time. They said, this is the best thing I've ever written.
Wow, John Marie.
They said, you have got to publish this. So yeah. I am going to self-publish it. In looking at it, there may be a reason why, it hasn't had much commercial thing.
Yeah.
In the 2010s, I learned late in life that I'm on the autism spectrum. And as with many people who are on the spectrum who learn that they're on the spectrum late in life, what happens is that when you learn it, all of your life beforehand suddenly comes into renewed focus. And you say, oh, that's why that happened. When I write, and, obviously because of, the readers of the Thunderbirds books, I do write stories that people enjoy, but I write probably because I'm on the spectrum a little differently than popular authors that go on the bestseller list. As someone on the spectrum, I'm really more interested in what people think and do and react than I am about how they feel. But I did send this haunted house novel to get a second opinion to someone who didn't know me. And her reaction was, there's not enough feeling in it.
Interesting.
And as someone on the autism spectrum, I do have feelings in the books because, people with autism also have feelings. But I guess that I don't connect on a level with some other people. That may explain why I have a somewhat limited readership. But I think that I have enough of an enthusiastic from the readers that I do have that it would be worth it for me to self-publish. So
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I'd love to read it. So self-publish away.
I will, and I will contact you through Mel and let you know what it is published.
Thank you. Over the years, you've been kind enough to send me the occasional book you think I might enjoy, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them. So,
you want me to send you the Thunderbirds books? I can do that.
You absolutely could. I don't know if I'll be able to read them all, but send me one that you're most.
I'll send you one.
Your favorite. Send me your favorite one.
Send me my favorite one. I can do that.
Please do.
There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up that has happened since Deep Space Nine ended, and that is while Deep Space Nine was on, I asked you to give a reaction for my book Boldly Writing.
Yes.
Yes, and that also has not had a huge following. It has had a certain following among scholars of popular culture.
Oh.
And so even though it took me about 7 years to sell out the original print run, I still sell about 20 copies a year because the popular culture scholars think that that's a seminal reference.
Of course.
And as a result, a couple of things have happened. First of all, the University of Iowa has a fanzine archive. They asked for my collection, and it will be eventually put into a special archive called the Joan Marie Verba Collection.
That's fantastic. Joan Marie was one of the pioneers of early Star Trek fan fiction. I mean, if I may say, I think I'm probably quite accurate by saying that. And I think that you contributed towards a movement that has just gone spread around the world.
Thank you. And thank you very much for the compliment. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
In fact, in 2017, one of the scholars who studies fanzines at the University of Iowa called me up and talked to me for 3 hours. She said she had to draw straws with other scholars to see who got the privilege of interviewing me. I was so flattered. I thought, my gosh, they want to talk to me so much. That interview will also eventually be transcribed and go into the archive.
That's you should give yourself a massive pat on the back because you deserve it. Well, it's been lovely catching up with you, Joan Marie.
It has. Thank you so much, and thanks again to Mel.
Joan Marie, make sure you read back the chat because you've got a big old fan club in there now. All right, we're going to go to Antonia.
Hi there.
Hi, Antonia. It's really good to see you. I sense your accent is not. You could be in America, but it doesn't sound like you are.
I grew up in the States, but I'm from an English family. I came back from the States when I was 18. I'm now 46, so I'm a dual citizen and
You totally are.
all of that.
Whereabouts are you in the UK?
I'm in Wokingham in Berkshire.
Oh, how is it around you? How is it in Berkshire?
I think, as with everywhere, there's a bit of confusion about what you can and can't and should and shouldn't be doing.
Especially when people do different things every day.
Absolutely. We've been a bit notorious in the news this week because of Bournemouth Beach being absolutely crammed yesterday, because we've been having a little heat wave, and that's why I've got a fan behind me, which I'm going to turn off in case it's making...
It's not making too much noise at all. Stay comfortable.
if I slowly slide under the desk.
Yes.
Turn the
Rather you
fan
stay
on.
comfortable.
I've noticed a lot of people not wearing masks
Yeah.
the way they were a few weeks ago.
Right.
I do wear mask and gloves when I go out shopping. I'm here with my mum, and we both have kind of additional risk factors.
Of
So
course.
I'm doing the shopping.
That is essential. Why have you got so many manuscripts and books knocking around in your room there?
A lifetime of book acquisition. I'm a family of book lovers, and I'm a second-generation librarian.
Oh, well, that explains it. Did you ever hear the other librarian who we had, the American librarian, who was the other American librarian?
Yeah, that was Stevie. Stevie, wasn't it?
Yes, who was talking about all sorts of fascinating new innovations that they're coming up with in their libraries.
I would love to have something like a makerspace, like Stevie was talking about, crafts and sewing and lots of things like that. Unfortunately, I don't think the council is in a position to provide it for the library as a continuous thing. Lots of people come into the library and run courses using it as a venue.
Yeah. Happy-wise, how are you doing in all this? I mean, obviously you're with your mum, and she's more vulnerable probably than you are, and so you're doing all the shopping and stuff. How are you getting your kit?
Well, I have been gardening a lot.
Oh, good.
Actually, just before the lockdown began, my father passed away.
Oh,
He'd had cancer for 20 years, and he just passed away at the end of February. And
dear.
I think that gardening has really been my therapy through all of this.
Yeah.
I've always loved doing it, but this year I've kind of done it with an extra intensity, I guess you could say.
Was he a keen gardener?
He definitely enjoyed the garden, and he enjoyed it even more if I did all the hard bits.
The bits and bobs, the beds.
Yeah, he wasn't terribly mobile, so I would grow things that he enjoyed looking at, and he could sit out there and he could smell things and see things. And
what did he do for a living? What did he do in his life?
He was quite well known in his field. He wrote 30 books on international relations and defense. And since he's passed away, several institutions have done tributes to him and things on Zoom. They're arranging conferences and things like that.
Do you mind if I ask you his name?
Yeah. His name is Colin S. Gray.
Thank you. I'm one of my hobbies over the years has been international relations, foreign affairs. So I'd be very interested to see what's going on. One of the only people I know who actually subscribes to a magazine called Foreign Affairs. It's quite bizarre.
He did write for them.
Absolutely, it's a terrific magazine. But I used to become so bored by local politics. I just looked further afield and was trying to find out the big game that was going on.
Yeah,
which is what he was definitely preoccupied by. What an astonishing father to have. Now, how was your relationship growing up? Not in personal terms, but was it? Would you have a traditional relationship?
Yes, I mean, my parents lived together the whole time. He was very loving, kind, generous father. When my mother did her library degree back when I was around 12, 13 years old, every weekend he would drive me and himself over to used bookshops, comic shops. And basically my family just loved going to used bookshops, of which there were many more in the mid-80s.
How fantastic. There was a wonderful bookshop in London, very close to Sloane Square, where you could buy, it was called John Sando, and I don't know if it's still there.
I don't know if it's still there, but I know of it.
I went in there all the time because I had some live as a student. I lived around there. I would look for old public books that were old, so that they'd been published but never sold, and he would never move them off the shelves. He'd just leave them there, and if they had the original price is what you pay. And he quickly figured out what 3D 5S, 3 and sixpence was, and without inflating it, without adjusting it for inflation. And you pay your 23 pence for this wonderful book and walk out.
Fantastic.
one of the finest bookshops. Well, I could talk to you forever, but I'm going to squeeze one more person in before I know I'm going to open the mics.
Before you go, can I just say, thank you so much. Like so many other people, this chat has been amazing. Hear other people talking about, what they're going through, and just fascinating people. It's been such kind of a rotten spring for me, I guess, with my dad and everything.
Of course.
And I've started watching Deep Space Nine, which I hadn't watched kind of all the way through before. It's been a really brilliant diversion. And, particularly you and Garrett, I wanted to say thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
And thank you for talking to me.
That info about your father.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antonia. Okay, we are next going to go to Casey.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm sorry.
Don't worry at all. You're very welcome to be here, and you'll be totally relaxed in a couple of minutes. I won't be able to shut you up. I know how this works. Where in the world are you?
I'm in Ottawa, in Canada.
Oh, wow. In a city or in the countryside?
I'm in a city in the suburbs.
Great.
Yeah.
I love Canada. How is it going there? Are you feeling more relaxed than you were a few weeks ago?
There's not a lot to do, but I also have lots of people to worry about, so.
Okay. So you're you take a lot of precautions and you're very careful.
Yeah, I take care of a friend who has mobility issues, so that means that I have to go into his apartment, and then I'm in contact with him, and then I worry.
Yeah,
about
you've got to absolutely
diseases into his house.
How does it feel? Because as I'm going to pick on you as a representative of young people, and I've got lots of wonderful young people in the club, and I haven't asked any of them this. Yearning to go out, to have fun, and it seemed my whole being was driven towards having fun.
I'm missing going to my college. I had friends that I had at college, and I don't see them anymore, and I'm missing them a lot.
Yeah. And do you Zoom?
Yeah, now my whole college is on Zoom, but it's not the same because you miss out on talking to people before and after and meeting up.
Yeah. And sitting on someone's bed and just sharing a glass of whatever and talking till 3 o'clock in the morning, that kind of stuff, and fake philosophizing. I remember doing that till the morning the sun rose. Tell me about your father, if he's still around.
I'm quite close to my father. For Father's Day, we had a water gun fight at my house.
Oh.
It was very hot, so I watch a lot of Star Trek with him.
Oh, fantastic! And what does he do? What's he up to?
He's a computer engineer, so he still has work. His whole work has been moved online.
Yeah. And is watching Star Trek one of the things that you will remember as that is one of the things that you remember about your father and you? I mean, it's very contemporary, obviously, your relationship with your father. Sometimes we talk about people who are not around anymore or divorced, etc. But you're still absolutely living and having a great, relationship with your dad. But
yeah, that's one of the things
carry
we
around
do
that
together. For a while, it was just me and him at home because my sister has a very busy social life, and my mom was out in the evenings to meetings and stuff, and we'd make spaghetti and we'd go watch Star Trek.
Fantastic! That's so great. And was it weekly? Did you watch it weekly, or did you just binge a few episodes?
Maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
So what do you study in college? What are you aiming to do with yourself?
I'm studying social service work. So it's a 2-year program about working in the community with different vulnerable populations. I had a placement in an long-term care facility before this all started. So that was hard to suddenly not be able to see a bunch of people that I'd been helping and
nurturing
worrying about what they're doing.
Yeah. And are most of them okay?
As far as I know, I've been keeping tabs on the place where I had my placement. COVID hasn't hit them yet. I hope it doesn't. But
absolutely
also worrying about all the residents' mental health throughout this, because they suddenly can't see their families and all the people who support them.
But tell me, because you're doing something that's really interesting.
Social service worker could be helping get services set up for that person, so that they have round-the-clock care or whatever.
Yeah, you work with the courts and make sure that this child in need of protection or child in need of assistance, it gets the correct is put in touch with the right people, and you check up on them every couple of weeks to make sure that the things are going well.
Yeah, finding resources for people and helping to advocate for their needs.
You're the first person that I've met who's doing this, and I think it tells a lot about the health of a nation, that its young people want to do what you're wanting to do. It reflects very well on them, that they inspire kids. There are lots of ways to help people and lots of wonderful people who do that, but this is one of the more unsung areas. It's less glamorous, perhaps, than maybe being a nurse or something.
A lot of the people in my program came into, like, they've had struggles in the past, like maybe they, as a kid, were involved with child services or something. Or for me, I had a long battle with mental illness, and just you get through that, and then you want to help others, and that's what
you've got it down. That's it. Yeah. You're right. That's it. Who better than someone who can empathize from the inside? That's such a wonderful thing. So, what do you like to do that isn't on your career palette? What do you like to do to kind of release stress, or what do you like to do for fun?
I love to write and I love to draw.
Great! My goodness, we could probably curate an entire museum and library just through this with so many great writers. Have you got some of your drawings around you?
I was working on it while listening to everybody, but it's not ready yet. But I can show you other drawings.
Show me anything you like.
Oh, here, okay.
Is it like
not depressing? It's just cute little houses.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're gorgeous. They're fantastic. They're really lovely. They're really terrific. And there's Garrett. That's got a real wit to it. That's really funny. He's got such a surprising expression on his face.
Illustration, sort of like a children's book illustration of witches in a tiny house.
What gorgeous colours. That's really, really beautiful. You're very talented. And do you write fan fiction, or do you write fiction?
Both, but I've never published my fiction.
Right. I mean, because it takes a lot of courage to do that, I imagine, because it's so personal.
It's also harder to find an audience.
Oh, really? I don't know. I mean, you think the audience is a little easier to find.
If you're writing fan fiction, people are already looking for stories with those characters, whereas if you're writing original characters, I don't know where you post that.
I wonder. I bet you there's a resource. I'm sure that's actually being written about in the chat at some point. Of course, there's a resource for people like just genuine fiction about other stuff, but it's probably the genre is probably what your story is based on. What there's so many niches around, so many niches that there's a genre for everything. But I know that we're gonna introduce someone to sing a song in a second. But we've got a song coming up, so sit back and enjoy it,
right.
And then you're welcome to jump back in, because we'll have an open mic session on. Thank you for sharing your life story with us, at least a part of it.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you, Casey. We're going to go to Mimi and Marlo, who have prepared something for us that was inspired by a conversation a couple of weeks ago.
Hello, Mimi and Marlo.
The other week, you guys were talking and chatting a lot about Bowie. So we thought which Bowie song to play, and then we couldn't decide, and then we just had a general, we call it the Bowie surprise. And
fantastic.
Savannah helped a bit much. So also Savannah, you'll know. Okay, you remind me of the Babe.
What Babe?
The Babe with the power.
What power?
The power of voodoo.
Voodoo?
You do.
Do what?
Remind me of the Babe.
Do 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 do. You've got your mother in a whirl. She's not sure if you're a boy or a girl. Hey babe, your hair's alright. Hey babe, let's go out tonight. They put you down, they say I'm wrong. You tacky thing. Sometimes I feel like the whole human race, jazzing for blue jeans. And when my blue jeans blue jean can send me. Somebody send me. Somebody send me. Somebody send me. The vacuum created by the arrival of freedom and the possibilities it seems to offer. It's got nothing to do with you. If one can grasp it, it's got nothing to do with
sailors fighting in the dance hall.
pretty
Oh
thing.
man, look at those cavemen go.
Let me make it plain.
It's the freakiest
Gotta
show.
make way for the homo superior.
Lawman beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know. He's in the best-selling show. Is there life on
My mother
Mars?
says to get things done, you'd better not mess with Major Tom.
Ground control to Major Tom.
You're not alone.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Just give me your hand.
Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
'Cause you're wonderful.
Ground control to
9,
Major Tom.
8, 7, 6,
Commencing
5,
countdown, engines on.
3, 2,
Check ignition and may God's love be with you.
Lift off.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me,
oh no, love, you're not alone. You're watching yourself, but you're too unfair. You've got your head all tangled up, but if I could only make you care.
I will be queen, and you will be king, and I can remember standing by the wall, and the guards shot above our heads,
Over our heads,
and we kissed as though nothing would fall.
nothing could fall, and the shame was on the other side. Oh, we can be there forever and ever. Then we can be heroes just for one day. We can be heroes just for one day.
It's one of the best medleys of David Bowie that I have ever heard. It's really tremendous, really lovely.
Thank you.
Oh God, amazing! And the way you just segued from one song to another and handed off to each other was really tough.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we're ready to wrap it up for this week.
Thank you, Mel. Good night, everyone.